Here are the top stories for today, January 9, 2020. No Filipinos are reported hurt in a missile strike on U.S. military bases in Iraq. Millions flocked to Manila to join this year's Traslacion of the Black Nazarene. President Duterte signs into law the fifth round of salary increases for government workers. And the Tourism Department leads an inspection in Baguio City in preparation for its rehabilitation. Good day, I'm Rom Dulfo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story, no Filipino was hurt in the Iranian missile strike that targeted two military bases in Iraq housing American troops. In a tweet by Foreign Affairs Secretary Traslacion Jr. on Wednesday, he said U.S. authorities found no Filipinos hurt based on information from the Philippine Embassy in Washington, D.C. Reports said more than a dozen missiles launched from Iran hit the Al-Assad and Erbil military bases holding U.S. troops in Iraq. The attack was believed as retaliation to a U.S. strike that killed Qasem Soleimani, head of Iran's elite Quds military force, on January 3. The Philippine government is deeply concerned over the developments in the Middle East, citing its threat to the peace and stability in the region. The Foreign Affairs Department said efforts are continuing to secure the repatriation of Filipinos in Iraq. Earlier, the DFA raised Crisis Alert Level 4 for Filipinos in Iraq, with the Philippine Embassy in Baghdad tasked to effect the mandatory evacuation of Filipinos, estimated at 1,640 in that country. Malacanang has expressed further concern for the Filipinos affected by the escalation of tensions in the Middle East. Amid preparations to ensure their safety, the palace said Filipinos there will not be forced to evacuate. Bench Bondok with the story.
The government will respect the possible decision of Filipinos to stay in Iraq despite the looming war between the United States and Iran. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo admitted that it is impossible to impose mandatory repatriation of overseas Filipino workers in Iraq, especially when the fighting between the US and Iran begins. On Monday, President Rodrigo Duterte sought the repatriation of 1.2 million OFWs in the Middle East as he feared that the tensions between Washington and Tehran would harm Filipinos. The palace official said the government is looking for a place in the Middle East that would serve as a temporary home to Filipinos who will be asked to leave Iraq in the meantime. He also assured them of job opportunities upon their return to the country. To this end, around 1.8 billion pesos in government funds can be tapped for the repatriation of OFWs in the Middle East, according to the Department of Budget and Management. DBM Assistant Secretary Rolando Toledo said the Duterte administration is ready for the repatriation of OFWs since it has enough funds to help Filipinos who will return home. Around 1.29 billion pesos will be taken from the Department of Foreign Affairs allocation. The other 100 million pesos will come from the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, while the remaining 500 million pesos is a free fund. Meanwhile, the Armed Forces of the Philippines is waiting for diplomatic clearance from Saudi Arabia and Qatar to put up a staging area for its humanitarian mission in Iran and Iraq. AFP Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Filimon Santos Jr. said the military C-130 planes and frigates will be used to evacuate Filipinos. An army and a marine battalion are also on standby to be sent to the Middle East. Santos said they will not do any offensive action other than protecting Filipinos in the region. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Bench Bondok.
Millions of Filipino devotees flocked to Manila to witness this year's Traslacion, or the procession of the venerated Black Nazarene to Quiapo Church. The celebration started with the Thanksgiving procession of the image on December 30, followed by the vigil and pahalik at the Quirino Grandstand. The vigil mass, presided by Quiapo Church Rector Monsignor Hernando Coronel with Manila Archbishop Luis Antonio Cardinal Tagle, was held at midnight on Thursday, with over 130,000 devotees attending. The main procession to Quiapo Church began at 4 in the morning. For the first time this year, the Traslacion is taking a shorter route as the image crosses the Pasig River via Ayala Bridge. Some 16,000 security personnel from the National Capital Region Police Office, or NCRPO, The BFP, or Bureau of Fire Protection, the Metro Manila Development Authority, or the MMDA, Coast Guard, and volunteers were deployed to ensure safe and solemn procession of the Black Nazarene. Meanwhile, at the Quiapo Church, over 130,000 devotees awaited the arrival of the Black Nazarene. The procession this year is expected to take 15 to 16 hours. Malacanang on Wednesday called on millions of devotees to observe solemn and safe celebration of the annual Traslacion. Presidential spokesperson Sal Panelo urged Black Nazarene devotees to be careful as they participate in the event. Panelo said the annual procession of the Black Nazarene is a good opportunity to inspire Filipinos to have a different outlook on life and motivate them to look forward to a peaceful Philippines. He said the annual celebration is a strong and a constant reminder of Filipinos have a deep and lasting relationship with the Almighty. Around 3 million devotees of the Black Nazarene joined the 21-hour procession last year. Work and classes in the city of Manila on Thursday have been suspended to pave way for the religious event. Still to come, President Duterte signs into law the 5th round of salary increases for government workers. Devotees in Bataan and Davao hold their own celebrations to pay tribute to the Black Nazarene. More on these when we return.
Yun, yung boyfriend ko yung nagdala sa akin sa drugs. Nababago na ugali ko, yung behavior ko, sa pamilya ko, sa mga anak ko, sa paggamit ng pera, yun, nawala lahat. Kasi marami ring babaeng nagdodroga. Kung nakakaramdam ng lungkot, ng galit, isa lang, puntahan mo pamilya mo, lapitan mo Panginoon. Ako, gustong-gusto ko si Duterte. Kasi isa ako sa mga natulungan niya. Isa ako sa napabuti niya. Hindi man kami magkakilala personally, pero yung programang yan, tinulungan niya ako para magbago lalo. Kasi kung wala akong takot, baka gumagawa pa ako ngayon.
Ikaw ba'y may anak na 5 taong gulang pababa? Halina't makilahok sa Sabayang Patak kontra Polio. Mag-iikot ang Department of Health sa buong Mindanao at National Capital Region para sa libreng polio vaccine. Alamin kung kailan bibisita ang DOH sa inyong mga lugar. Mga nanay at tatay, magkita-kita tayo ha! Sabay-sabay natin pabakunahan ang inyong mga chikiting. Kita-kits tayo!
President Duterte has signed into law the proposed measure implementing the 5th round of salary increases for workers in the government. The PCOO on Wednesday night released photos of the president signing the proposed Salary Standardization Law, or SSL-5, into law at Malacanang Palace. Under the measure, the salary adjustment will be implemented in 4 tranches from 2020 to 2023. Around 1.4 million workers in the government, including public teachers and nurses, will benefit from the approved pay hike. The government will earmark a total of 130 billion pesos for the implementation of the SSL-5. The president certified the proposed pay hike as urgent in December last year. National Security Advisor Jimenez Esperon Jr. slammed anew the Comprehensive Agreement on Social and Economic Reforms, or CASER, calling it a piece of document that only serves the interests of the communist movement. Esperon, who is also vice chairperson of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC, said dismantling the current economic model, a provision of CASER, means reversing all economic reforms in the past several decades. Esperon adds NDF's demand that the agreement remains in force regardless of the outcome of peace talks robs the government of its ability to negotiate on equal footing. He pointed out that designating the NPA to participate in agrarian reform and demobilizing the armed forces will be hugely detrimental to the government. He adds, Quezon undoes the government's reforms that address the causes of armed conflict, which include the implementation of land reform, free irrigation, free tertiary education, universal health care, expanded for peace, and the Build, Build, Build program. Given the objectionable provisions of NDF's proposed CASER, he expressed doubts that engaging in another round of peace talks would be beneficial to the country. Meralco announced Wednesday it will reduce power rates at the start of the year. Power rates for January will settle at 9.45 pesos per kilowatt hour from 9.86 per kilowatt hour. This would mean an 82 peso reduction in the electricity bill for a household consuming 200 kilowatt hour a month. In a statement, Meralco said generation charge this month declined due to lower costs from its power supply agreements and independent power producers. Meralco also cut transmission charges for residential customers this month due to lower ancillary service charge from the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines. Taxes and other charges are also lower at the start of 2020. Meanwhile, distribution, supply, and metering charges have remained stable for 54 months. Devotees of the Black Nazarene in certain provinces who could not travel to Manila held their own versions of the Traslacion to honor the Black Nazarene. More on these from Ruth Abby, Gita Carlos.
Devotees coming in droves continue to pay homage to the replica of the image of the Black Nazarene inside the St. Joseph Cathedral compound in Balanga, Bataan. Jimmy Mangalindan, caretaker of the Black Nazarene replica, said the annual pahalik has been held here since 2010 for the sake of those who could not go to Corina Grandstand and Quiapo Church. He said the pahalik started Monday and will end on Thursday. After the afternoon mass on the last day, the procession for the Black Nazarene will start at 6 p.m. In Davao City, devotees of the Black Nazarene held their own procession at the new Lanzona subdivision in Matina. About 6,000 devotees were expected to attend the procession, which has been ongoing for 11 years. In Tagum City, devotees held their own procession honoring the Black Nazarene. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Ruth Abby Gita Carlos.
Up next, the Tourism Department leads an inspection in Baguio City in preparation for its rehabilitation. And experts warn against the hazards of plastic wastes to the environment and health. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
So as much as possible, we should reuse a lot of our items, and time for us not to be really materialistic, time to fix things, recreate them, make them into something more useful again, instead of throwing them out.
It's high time na kasi fashion in the Philippines is, I think, in the world, I think it's the #1 pollutant, lalo na ang fashion. Kasi every time palagi napapalitan, di ba? Pag na out of date na yung damit, it's either gawing basahan. So, like we i-repurpose natin. We don't call this recycling. We call this now as upcycling. So, I'm hoping na marami talagang would go into upcycling.
The Department of Tourism, together with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, and the Department of the Interior and Local Government, is set to inspect Baguio City on Friday, January 10, for rehabilitation. Tourism Chief Berna Romulo Puyat will visit Burnham Park, Wright Park, Mines View Park, Baguio City's sewage treatment plant, and Balili River, and the sanitary landfill in Irisan. An interagency meeting with the Baguio City government was scheduled to tackle the problems that ail the premier tourist site. The three agencies and stakeholders will discuss the possible sustainable infrastructure rehabilitation projects on the urban carrying capacity of Baguio, La Trinidad, Itogon, Sablan, Tuba, and Tublay, and other plans to develop or redevelop and decongest the UNESCO Creative City. Among the projects the DOT pledged to bankroll through the Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority include the 480 million peso rehabilitation of the iconic Burnham Park. Geothermal power leader Energy Development Corporation has vowed to continue to reforest Mount Talinis in Negros Oriental as part of its massive greening efforts of the entire Negros Island. Noreen Bautista, head of EDC's Corporate Social Responsibility in Negros Island and Mount Apo in Mindanao, said Mount Talinis, known as the highest peak in Cuernos de Negros, is one of EDC's tree-growing sites. She adds more than 30 EDC employee volunteers recently climbed Mount Talinis to plant more than 100 native natto trees. Bautista stressed that lush forests will help geothermal energy recharge its reservoir, as trees will hold and release water deep into the earth. From 2009 to 2019, the company has planted and grown almost 3 million Philippine native trees in the island with the help of over 30 partners. Binhi aims to bridge forest gaps and bring back to abundance 96 Philippine native trees, mostly in its geothermal reservation areas. With the influx of foreign tourists visiting Ilocos Norte, travel operators said they are in need of more tour guides to assist guests and make their stay memorable in the province. Angel Lau, former president of the Ilocos Norte Travel and Tours Association and owner of Travel Ilocandia, said residents who are looking for employment may consider joining the growing tourism industry in the region. To date, there are at least 28 accredited tour guides in Ilocos Norte, 10 in Ilocos Sur, 68 in La Union, and 63 in Pangasinan. Last January 6, Ilocos Norte welcomed tourists from MS The World at the Curimao Seaport, while the MV Royal Caribbean made its comeback at the Salomage port in Cabugao, Ilocos Sur. The tourism department said more cruise ships are expected to hold ocular inspections at the Curimao Seaport, while the port is being improved for public safety. Scientists have warned that serious health and waste problems will occur globally if plastic waste produced by the year 2050 reaches 1 billion tons annually. Sedat Gundugdu, an expert on sea waste and microplastics at Turkey's Çukurova University, said plastic waste could contaminate the land and sea, injure and kill animals, and affect people through contamination of the food chain. Gundugdu said polystyrene rigid, polyvinyl chloride or PVC, polyethylene, and polyethylene terephthalate or PET are serious threats after becoming waste, which is why many countries want to send plastic waste to other countries. Gundugdu also highlighted plastic contributes to the climate crisis. Rebecca Prince Ruiz, founder and executive director of the Plastic Free Foundation, meanwhile said 8 million tons of plastic enter oceans each year. She said despite the advantages to daily life, people should be aiming for a world without plastic waste. The UN estimates that 8.3 billion tons of plastic have been produced since the early 1950s. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. No Filipinos are reported hurt in a missile strike on U.S. military bases in Iraq. Millions flocked to Manila to join this year's Traslacion of the Black Nazarene. President Duterte signs into law the 5th round of salary increases for government workers. And the Tourism Department leads an inspection in Baguio City in preparation for its rehabilitation. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, check our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more news about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags on all our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I am Rom Dulfo. Good day.